Ask 100 veteran truck drivers what the best transmission ever built was, and you'll hear the same answer again and again: the 13-speed Roadranger. Not because it had the most gears, not because it was the most advanced, but because it did something few transmissions ever could. It got almost everything right. 1945. The war ended, and America started moving again. Freight tonnage doubled in 5 years. Engines jumped from 200 horsepower to 400. Detroit Diesel, Cummins, Caterpillar all racing to build bigger, meaner power plants that could haul heavier loads faster across longer distances. The highways were filling up with chrome and diesel smoke. But there was a problem. The transmissions couldn't keep up. Early heavy-duty gearboxes were 4-speed or 5-speed crash boxes. Straight-cut gears with no synchronizers. Shifting one required double clutching, clutch in, shift to neutral, blip the throttle to match engine speed to road speed, clutch in again, slam it into gear. Miss the timing by half a second and you got the grind, metal teeth skipping across each other, stripping under load. On a flat highway, you could manage. Your right hand developed muscle memory. Your ears learned to read engine pitch like sheet music. But on a 6% grade, with 40,000 pounds of steel pipe chained to your flatbed, one missed shift meant lost momentum. The engine would bog. The whole rig would shudder. You'd lose speed. 30 miles per hour, 20, 15, and suddenly you're that guy blocking traffic on the grapevine while your temperature gauge climbs into the red and your brakes start smoking from holding back all that weight. Sometimes you'd have to stop, right there on the grade, set the parking brake, let the engine cool, then restart in low gear and crawl the rest of the hill at walking speed while a line of cars stacked up behind you, honking, flashing their lights, cursing the slow-moving truck that was costing them their schedule. Truckers called it the dance. It was exhausting. It destroyed clutches. It wore out drivers. And it was getting worse every year as engines got more powerful and loads got heavier. Cummins was building turbocharged diesels that could hit 500 horsepower. Cat was experimenting with their 3.6. The power was there, but the gearboxes couldn't translate it to the wheels without braking. The industry needed a transmission that could handle the new torque levels without weighing as much as the cargo. It needed something that wouldn't grenade under sustained abuse. It needed a design that could survive 1,000,000 miles of split shifts, double clutching, and gear-grinding panic stops on mountain grades. Nobody had figured out how to build one. The engineering seemed impossible. You either built it strong, which meant heavy, or you built it light, which meant it broke. There was no middle ground. Then a company in Ohio started sketching something different. Not more gears, 2 shafts instead of 1. It sounded insane. It changed everything. Eaton Manufacturing, later Eaton Fuller, had been building truck transmissions since the 20s. They understood the core problem better than anyone. A single countershaft had to handle all the engine's torque. Every pound-foot of twisting force the diesel generated slammed into one shaft, one set of bearings, one cluster of gears. To avoid stripping gears under that kind of punishment, you needed bigger, heavier gears. Bigger gears meant a longer, heavier transmission. Heavier transmissions ate into payload capacity, sometimes by hundreds of pounds, and made trucks harder to maneuver in tight loading docks. Worse, they were expensive to build, and even more expensive to replace when they failed. So Eaton's engineers tried something radical. Instead of one countershaft taking the full hit from the engine, they split the load between 2 countershafts running parallel inside the case. Each shaft carried half the torque. Think about it. If one shaft has to handle 1,800 foot-pounds, the gears need to be thick, wide, heavy. But if you split that load, 900 pounds per shaft, suddenly you can use smaller gears. Smaller gears mean less weight, less rotating mass, a shorter overall package that fits in the same frame rails as the old single-shaft designs. Half the torque meant smaller gears. Smaller gears meant a shorter, lighter transmission that could still handle the punishment. The twin countershaft layout became the foundation of the Roadranger line, and it's still the design Eaton uses today. 50 years later, that same architecture is sitting in heavy-duty trucks rolling off assembly lines right now. But splitting the torque was only half the innovation. The real brilliance, the part that made the 13-speed legendary, was the architecture. A 5-speed main section in front, married to a 3-position auxiliary section in back. Low range. high range, and a splitter gear that could divide each main section ratio into two. Here's how it worked. The 5-speed main box gave you 5 basic ratios, first through fifth, flip the range selector into low, and you got those 5 ratios for pulling heavy from a stop or crawling up steep grades at 4 miles per hour with full torque multiplication. Flip it into high, and the auxiliary section multiplied those same 5 ratios into taller gears for highway cruising at 65-70 miles per hour. But the third piece, the splitter, let you split 4 of the high-range ratios in half, giving you 8 progressive steps instead of 4. Every time you hit a main gear in high range, you could tap the red button on top of the shifter and split it into a half step. That meant you could keep the engine in its power band, that sweet spot between peak torque and peak horsepower, without over-revving or lugging. 5 speeds in low, 8 speeds in high, 13 forward gears total, 2 reverse, all from a transmission shorter and lighter than the old crash boxes it replaced. And because the gears were smaller, they were cheaper to manufacture and easier to replace when they wore out. The first production Roadranger 13-speed rolled out in the early 1960s. Within 5 years, it was everywhere. Peterbilt was speccing it. Kenworth was speccing it. Mack was speccing it. If you ordered a new Class 8 truck in 1968 and you wanted a manual, you got the Roadranger. Walk up to any Peterbilt 359 or Kenworth W900 from the 70s, pull open the door, and you'd see the same thing. A chrome shifter with an H pattern, a 3-position range selector on the side of the stick, and a red splitter button on top. Learning to drive it was a rite of passage. You started in low range, first gear, the deep pulling granny gear for getting 40 tons moving from a dead stop. The engine would roar. The clutch would bite. The whole rig would lurch forward with a diesel snarl that rattled windows 2 blocks away. Work up through second, third, fourth, fifth, and low. Each shift required timing. Clutch, throttle blip, slot it home. And if you rushed it, you'd hear that grind and feel the vibration all the way up through the floorboards. Hit fifth low, flip the range selector up into high, and keep climbing. Fifth high, split it. Sixth high, split it. Seventh, split it. Eighth. By the time you hit top gear, you were doing 70 on the interstate with the tach sitting at 1500 RPM, sipping fuel and eating miles. The engine was barely working. Just a low hum, a steady pull, the road disappearing under your wheels. It wasn't easy. New drivers ground gears for weeks. They'd miss shifts, stall on hills, get laughed at by veterans in truck stops who'd been running the 13 speed since before the rookie was born. But once you learned it, you had control. Total, surgical control over every ounce of power that engine could deliver. You could baby a loaded tanker up an icy mountain pass in second low, riding the Jake brake on the backside to keep from building speed on the descent. You could split gears on a straightaway to hold the sweet spot in the power band without over-revving. You could drop from 8th high to 4th low in 2 moves if you needed emergency engine braking. No fade, no overheating, just pure mechanical force slowing 60,000 pounds of rolling steel. The sound became part of the culture, that distinct whine of the splitter engaging, the clunk of the range selector flipping from low to high, the growl of a Detroit 2-stroke or a Cummins big cam climbing through the gears. Each shift perfectly timed, the driver's hand moving in rhythm with the engine's voice. Fleets loved it because it was bulletproof. Drop it, abuse it, run it 1,000,000 miles, crack it open, and you'd find gears that still had their factory edges. Owner-operators loved it because they could rebuild one in a barn with hand tools and a service manual. No computers, no proprietary software. Just steel, bearings, and hydraulic pressure. Drivers loved it because it turned them into artists. You weren't just steering, you were conducting 18 forward gears and 2,000 foot-pounds of diesel fury in perfect harmony with the road. By the mid-70s, the Roadranger 13-speed was the transmission in American trucking. Long haul, logging, tankers, construction, flatbed. Didn't matter what you hauled or where you hauled it. If you wanted reliability and driver confidence, you spec'd the 13-speed. It became more than a transmission. It became an identity. If you could run a 13-speed, you were a real driver, not some steering wheel holder. A professional. Then the computers showed up. Late 90s, early 2000s, Automated manual transmissions started appearing in fleet spec sheets. Eaton built their own, the Ultra Shift. Detroit Diesel had the DT12. Volvo brought in the iShift. All of them use the same basic idea. Take a manual gearbox, bolt on electric actuators, and a computer brain. Let the software handle the clutch and shift timing. The pitch was compelling. Automated manuals got better fuel economy, sometimes 2 to 3% better, because the computer could shift at the mathematically perfect RPM every single time. No human error. 2% doesn't sound like much until you're running 300 trucks and burning 1 million gallons of diesel a year. Suddenly that's 20,000 gallons you're not buying. That's real money. They reduced driver fatigue on long hauls. No more dancing on the clutch in stop-and-go traffic. No more 50 consecutive shifts climbing the Eisenhower Pass. The computer did it all. You just steered and managed the throttle. They lowered the skill barrier for new hires, which meant fleets could fill seats faster in a driver shortage. You didn't need 6 months to learn the shift pattern anymore. You needed a weekend, and the data backed it up. Big fleets running hundreds of trucks saw real savings. Fuel costs dropped. Transmission-related breakdowns dropped. Training time dropped. For companies running tight margins on commoditized freight, hauling dry van loads at $1.30 per mile, those numbers mattered. The bean counters loved automated manuals. The corporate efficiency experts loved them. The shareholders loved them. But the drivers who'd grown up on the 13-speed weren't buying it. They argued that in bad conditions, black ice, mud, snow, you needed manual control to feather the clutch and modulate power in ways no computer could predict. An automated transmission might decide to upshift right when you needed to stay in a lower gear to keep momentum on a slick grade. Or it might downshift too aggressively and break the tires loose on ice. The computer didn't have instinct. It didn't feel the road through the seat of its pants. They pointed out that automated manuals were black boxes. When one failed, you couldn't crack it open and swap a gear on the side of the road. You called a tow truck and waited for a dealership technician with a laptop. If the problem was in the software, a sensor glitch, a calibration error, you might be sitting there for hours while they troubleshot lines of code. With a 13-speed, you could diagnose most problems by sound and fix them with wrenches. And they were right about durability. A 13-speed Roadranger built in 1980 could still be running strong in 2020, with nothing but fluid changes and the occasional synchronizer rebuild. Tear one down after 40 years and you'd find gears that looked like they'd been machined yesterday. Automated manuals? More complex, more expensive to fix, more dependent on software updates and proprietary parts that only the dealer could source. The debate split the industry. Fleets went automated. Owner-operators stayed manual. But one thing didn't change. When an owner-operator walked into a dealership to buy a used truck, the first question was always the same. Does it have the 13-speed? So what does most demanded actually mean? It doesn't mean the 13-speed outsells automatics in new truck production anymore. It doesn't. Fleets have moved on. The big carriers, J.B. Hunt, Schneider, Werner, they're running automated manuals in their entire fleets now. It makes sense for their business model. High driver turnover, shorter training cycles, fuel savings at scale. The 13-speed doesn't fit that world. But in the used market, among independent haulers and small fleet operators, the Roadranger 13-speed is still the gold standard. It's the transmission drivers ask for by name. Search any used truck listing, and you'll see it in the ad copy. Eaton Fuller 13-speed, well-maintained, shifts smooth, no grinds. That line alone can add $5,000 to the asking price. Maybe more. Why? Because it's bulletproof. A well-maintained 13-speed will run 1 million miles. Maybe more. Some drivers claim they've seen units go 1.5 million before needing a rebuild. Tear one down after 30 years and you'll find gears that look like they were machined yesterday. The steel is that good. The tolerances are that tight. Eaton built them to last because they knew truckers wouldn't accept anything less. Wear parts, synchronizers, bearings, seals are cheap and widely available. Any competent truck mechanic can rebuild one over a weekend for a fraction of what a replacement automated manual costs. Main shaft bearings? $150. Synchronizer rings? $75. You're into a full rebuild for maybe $2,000 in parts if you do the labor yourself. Compare that to an automated manual where a single actuator module can cost $1,800 and you need a dealer scan tool just to install it. And there's something else, something harder to quantify. When you drive a 13-speed, you're part of a lineage. You're connected to every trucker who learned the shift pattern in a 1970 Kenworth, every driver who split gears through the Rockies at sunrise, every owner-operator who rebuilt their own gearbox in a gravel lot because downtime meant losing a contract. That connection matters. It's why online forums explode with debates over shift techniques. Double clutch or float? Skip gears or run them all? Start in low or second low? Everyone has an opinion because everyone learns slightly different. It's why drivers still post videos teaching the H pattern too.